And welcome back, everybody. When Javier Arenas was returning punts and kicks, you just didn't even think about it. The guy was good. You knew he was going to make big plays. Now he's gone. Somebody else, for the first time in 3 years, is going to have to fill that role. What does Nick Saban think about the guys that are going to try to step up and get it done?
We got more guys right now than the law allows, back there that we're looking at. But, we feel really good about Trent, who's really a good kickoff return guy. We feel really good about Julio being sort of the off returner because he's a really good blocker, which is what he played all last year. But then, we have Mays, we have Hanks, we have Mark Ingram who can do it.
Well, Rodney, to think that you're going to have somebody do what Javier Arenas did is probably a little, probably just not practical because he's one of the best of all time. But as you heard Coach say, they got some guys that can get the football in their hands and do something with it.
Yeah, they do, Gary, and a lot of them. And Julio Jones certainly did some of the punt returning last year. He also returned some kickoffs, but he doesn't look like your typical punt returner these days with his frame, his height, and all that. But he is an outstanding punt returner, kind of a different type of guy. But certainly, I think he can be very effective doing it. And also think, Gary, that there's going to be, the kickoff returns are going to be very interesting. Seeing Trent Richardson back there.
Good stuff, Rodney. Well, earlier this summer, we talked about on this program the possibility that we could see a package on offense that has Mark Ingram and Trent Richardson in the backfield at the same time. On Sunday, Jim McElwain was asked if that might happen.
If it dictates it, the one thing I do know is last time I checked, we still only get to play with one football out there. And there is something pretty nice about having a fresh Trent Richardson or a fresh Mark Ingram.
All right, Rodney, let's discuss Richardson and Ingram. Two great talents, and I don't know if we'll see it often, but certainly if you do that some, you give defensive coordinators nightmares on how to game plan. We saw it some last year with the Wildcat.
Yeah, you do, and again, I like the idea of, like Jim McElwain said, keeping them fresh, and maybe I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of that, obviously. I think you and I agree with that. But again, you could see that some.
All right, let's get to some phone calls. We've had some people holding. I remind you, turn your television down because we're on a delay, and it's going to throw you completely off if you don't. Let's start here in Tuscaloosa and talk with Joseph. Joseph, welcome into the program.
How you doing, man?
Doing good, Joseph.
Hey, roll tide, by the way.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, simple question. Okay, this past Sunday on Fan Day, correct?
Yes.
Okay, now the thing is there a chance that Coach Saban might allow an extra 15 minutes next year for Fan Day that way?
Joseph, I don't know. I know that everybody probably doesn't get what they want signed but if you extend it for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, or an hour, there's still going to be people probably don't make it. Then I doubt very seriously they're going to extend it. I think they've got it set up the way they're comfortable with it. You got to remember those guys have been out there for media day, picture day, a practice, and I think coach is not going to just keep them out there all afternoon long.
Well, Gary, I think there were 2,000 people waiting outside the stadium to get autographs. There were another 5,000 inside, and a lot of those went to get autographs too. So again, I understand what you're saying, Joseph. It'd be great if it could be longer, but I'm not sure 15 minutes would do it.
Yeah, or no matter 2 hours.
Yeah,
I still
right.
think you'd have people waiting. You got to cut it off at some point. All right, let's go to Bessemer and talk with John. John, welcome into TITV.
Man, roll tide.
Yes, sir.
Hey, man, can we do it one more year?
Well, John, they can. And this is probably the question we get asked more than anything, Rodney, when we're out and about is, will Alabama win the national championship? The question is, it's a good question. Answer is we don't know. But the fact of the matter is they're good enough every time they line up on a given Saturday to beat who they're playing against. They've got the football team capable of doing that. So, yes, there's a good chance they can win the national championship again.
Yeah, there is. I think there certainly is. Again, we just went through our summer picks. I picked them 12-0. Gary picked them to lose to LSU. I don't agree with that one. But anyway, I certainly think so, John. I don't think there's any question about it. To me, personally, this is physically, and I know I said this last year, this is the best-looking team I've seen.
It's a good-looking
at Alabama
football team. But there's some tough games, and again, Alabama, not that the Tide doesn't always have a target, but it's increased this year with the national championship and 14-0 record, and really back-to-back undefeated regular seasons. All right, BT is with us in Tuscaloosa. BT, what's going on there, my man?
I don't know, Gary and Rodney. How about y'all?
Doing pretty well, BT. What's on your mind?
Hey, Gary and Rodney, would the offense be the same, or would we see a different offense, or what?
Well, BT, I think you're always going to see new wrinkles. I mean, that's just part of what offensive coordinators do. But, you know, the offense they've had around here the last couple of years has worked pretty well. So I don't think you're going to see any major deviations. I think they want to run the football, establish the line of scrimmage, Ronnie, and dictate when they want to throw it and throw it successfully.
Well, you know, again, Gary, I think what you said there is key. I hope if they throw it more, I'm more concerned about throwing it effectively, continuing to throw it effectively. Greg McElroy did a good job. Hopefully he does a better job this year in some ways. And but BT, I hope they line up and run the football as much as possible. When you have Trent Richardson, Mark Ingram, you have to.
You know, in the passing game, you can break some big plays, but if you run the ball successfully, you can break the other team's spirit.
Well, I mean, physical football.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at what happened in the BCS game. Again, Alabama was a more physical team. Look what happened to the SEC championship team. Alabama was a more physical team. Alabama might be the most physical team in the country.
All right, we'll see. Well, more of your phone calls are coming up when Tider Insider TV continues. But as we go to break, there might not be a Crimson Tide player who's had a better offseason than DJ Fluker. Last year's roster listed him at 350, but he says he got up heavier than that. Now he's down to 325. He says in high school even he reached about 390. With a lot of hard work and dedication, he's improved his physical conditioning and his chances of becoming the starting right tackle in the process. We'll be right back. Back to the phones. We got a lot of loyal viewers. I'll put Trey from West Blockton right at the top of the list. Trey, what's up tonight, my man?
Not a whole lot. How y'all doing?
Doing well.
Yeah, I know I saw where Conjo has narrowed his list to 11 suitors now, but isn't this a case of a guy, you know, trying to dot and cross everything and be as thorough as possible, but can we say that the conclusion is virtually foregone? I mean,
well, you know, Trey, you never say it's foregone in recruiting, as you know, if you followed it for a while. But I think, you know, chances are really, really good Cyrus Kwanjo is coming to Alabama. You know, obviously with Ari here, and I think that certainly creates a path for Cyrus to follow, and I think he will. But again, you know, we'll kind of have to wait and see and let this thing play out. And Alabama's recruiting some other offensive tackles as well. I think they're going to have another, you know, banner year on the offensive line.
Next up, Amy in T-Town. That's got a nice ring. Amy, how are you? Amy, you with us? Well, we talked a little bit on some other programs about the kicking game. Amy wanting to know about it. And Ronnie, we only got about 30 seconds, but they're trying to find guys to fill just virtually every spot in the kicking game.
And Cade Foster, we want to talk about the place kicker because I think Lee Tiffin, obviously 30 of 35, first-team All-American. Give him his due. He had an outstanding season last year. And replacing him is going to be difficult. Cade Foster, the freshman from South Lake Carroll out in Texas, looked good just kicking off the other day, put a few in the end zone. So let's hope he progresses. And also Jay Williams, the freshman punter from Thomasville, I think he's got an opportunity to win that job.
All right, Amy, thanks for the question. Coming up, Alabama's Nico Johnson is drawing comparisons to another former Crimson Tide linebacker. You probably can guess who it is, but if not, we'll tell you when TITV continues. Finally, Alabama linebacker Nico Johnson may not have ever met former Crimson Tide great DeMeco Ryans, but the two are often compared, and why not? They favor each other in the face, physically. They wear the same number, number 35. And to top it off, their names, Nico and DeMeco, or Miko for short, rhyme. Don't think that hasn't caused some fun in the locker room for young Mr. Johnson.
All the time, from teammates, Dante Hightower, Chris Jordan, Courtney Upsh, everybody, all the time.
Well, they just come up and call you DeMeco?
DeMeco, well, Marcel calls me Nico Ryans or DeMeco Johnson and all that. But.
I'll tell you this, Rodney, if he has as good a career as DeMeco Ryans, he'll be fortunate. That was a great football player and still a great football player with the Texans. Hey, it's dinner time. Come out and join us tonight at the Pottery Grill over in Northport. That's where we're headed. We'll talk some football with you. And don't forget, if you missed any of tonight's show, you can catch it on our website, WVUATV.com. Plus, we've got a replay coming after the 10 o'clock news tonight. For John Huddleston, our producer, Jonathan Newman, our director, all the folks here at TITV, including my main man, Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. We'll see you next week on the one, the only Tider Insider TV.